Okie dokie.
So what you're seeing on your screen right now is a program called Blender. Um, Unlike a lot of programs that I use, which are like proprietary programs you gotta buy, this one's free. So, if you want to follow along at home, you can just go to like your basic web browser, type in Blender, look at that, blender.org. So what Blender is like a program for making 3D art, basically. It's like specifically like designed for like uh, kind of like animation and film, but also gets used a lot in games, especially now, since like if you're like a college student, you're not gonna go into the school computer lab to use Maya like we did back when I was in school. You're just gonna download Blender and use it on your own PC. So why I've been thinking about this is that the way we were working on Nightshift Galaxy before, we were budgeting for like hiring artists and imagining that all the environments would get sort of like laid out by a level designer and then decked out with art by a dedicated 3D artist. Now that it's just me, I kind of need to find like a sort of new process for how I want to like lay out and deck levels, because I can't be a programmer and a designer and a level designer and a 3D modeler, like, and an illustrator and a producer and everything else. So I need to find some ways to basically automate stuff. And one of the things that's neat about Blender is that in addition to being just like a regular sort of like modeling program where you can come in here and create whatever shapes you want, it also has some automation features, like some ways of writing little programs that can like take a little bit of art and then like you can write an algorithm for having it sort of like automatically sort of like combine it and sort of lay it out. That's actually pretty common even if you're not like trying to be scrappy like me. Although what I'm used to using professionally is this program called Houdini by Side Effects, which is like, it also does 3D modeling and animation, but like what it really mostly does is having all these tools for doing like visual programming, for making algorithms that let it like procedurally generate stuff, right? Like you see here, oh, you take like a little image and then there's like a program that like decks it out into like a whole environment. SideFX is closed source. You gotta pay for it. It's actually kind of annoying to use, and so I was hoping, I don't have like a lot of experience with Blender, but I wanted to see like, well, Blender kind of does some of the stuff that SideFX does, and like maybe that's like enough for my game. So what I wanted to do was, as like a first test, I'd also say like, this isn't my like first thing I did in Blender. Like I've tried it before, like here, like, I don't know, a year or so ago, I was just fucking around and like seeing if I could make some mecha. So this is kind of like a love child of like, I don't know, a Macross Valkyrie and the Vic Viper, I guess. And I actually think like my conclusion the last time I used it is that the modeling tools are way better than Maya's, which is the program that I normally use, but the animation tools left a lot to be desired. Like the whole armature system seemed a little finicky, but that's maybe just because I'm used to the way Maya does stuff. But this time we're not going to be rigging characters, or even, I don't know how much modeling we're going to be doing, we'll see. But I want to actually use, if you go over to the tab on the top, this geometry node like editor that it also has. This is the thing where you can write a little program that creates a scene. Excuse me, or like combines simple like modular meshes into a scene so that you can like automate. So my thought, the thing I'm thinking about, so one of the things we need to make is like a city. And so like a city environment in my mind is going to have like buildings and it's going to have roads. And so I would like it to be like easy for me to just like draw a really simple blueprint of the city, and for it to just like take some very simple meshes of like road pieces and building pieces and just generate all the buildings and all the roads. So it's kind of like a roguelike in that it's like taking some simple pieces and it's like generating a scene, but like I want to do it ahead of time in this program and bake it out and then just save it into my game rather than doing all that generation like dynamically at runtime. So it's more like I'm curating the scene rather than just like rolling the die and showing you some random stuff. So I think the first thing I'm going to do in this scene is delete everything, and then like I think the first thing is like I should just like draw basically like a street plan, and I was thinking for that like the types of objects that you have in Blender are like meshes and curves. You can see it here. There's like meshes and curves, surfaces, volumes, and like all this other stuff. My first thought was to do a curve, and I would draw a curve and then the road would follow the curve. That's like kind of what you do if you're making like a racing game. But actually I'm thinking like I might actually make a mesh, and the mesh doesn't have any faces, it just has vertices and edges, and like the vertices will be junctions and the edges will be where the road goes. And I think I like this better because like a path is just like a single, like, you know, it's just a single line, whereas like edges and vertices are like a network. So I could create like a loop, or I could create like a tree or like branches and things. So what I'm going to start with is you go to mesh. I should be able to add a single arrow. How do I do this? I should be able to add like a single vertice. Maybe if I just like add that, if I just add a plane, and I go into edit mode here, and I delete everything, and then I just say, how do I was positive that you could add a single vertice. Is this like an add-on that I forgot to turn on? Let's see, do I have any of these? Oh yeah, it looks like a bunch of stuff is missing. So there's like, I'm going through all the tutorials. It turns out a bunch of Maya's features aren't enabled by default, and you have to use these add-ons. I'm not sure why this wasn't saved, but Loop Tools is a good one. Bool Tools is a good one. I think there was like a like Node Wrangler is another one I was using. Cool. And what other? Oh, Auto Mirror was like an important one. And it looks like there's a bunch of other stuff in here, but that seems like enough for now. So I should be able to say, nope, can I not say single vert? Add. Well, maybe if I go out here, get rid of this empty object I made. Was it out here? Why am I not able to make it? I would swear to God, yesterday I was totally able to do this. This is so weird. Well, this is part of the process. Let's just go in here, Blender, single vert mesh. How do I do that? Can I add a single vert? Okay, it's in an extension called Mesh Extra Objects. See, this is why using programs is so annoying. Looks like there's one for curves and one for meshes. I'll enable both of those. Save my preferences. I don't know why that wasn't saved from the last time I was working. But now I should be able to say, there we go. Oh, I created something I didn't want. No, that was it. Cool. So now we have like a single vertex. Definitely sound off in the chat if you don't understand anything that I'm talking about, or would like me to like give a little bit more information. But so what you can do with a single vertex anyway is you can extrude it. In theory, what is going on here? Let's try this from scratch. Add single vertex mesh. here we're in edit mode. I can say E. Yeah, so you can see you press E to extrude, and when you extrude a vertex, you get an edge, right? As opposed to like if I grabbed an edge and I extruded it, I would get a face, right? And by the way, we're looking like top down right now. That's like on the numpad. You can like change which way you're looking. I'm always going to do top down just because we're like putting a map on the ground. So here's some tricks that I learned about vertices. You can say G, and that'll move it around. And we're like staying in the plane just because we're perfectly top down. So I can always just like grab a vertex and I can move it. I can like move these things around. If two vertices are close together, I'm pretty sure it's M. Yeah, you can say merge at center, right? So now I can create like a loop. I can sort of come out from here, go like this, grab here, merge these. There we go. There's kind of like a road plan. Yeah. So now, another like trick that you can do is, this is a fun one that I learned. If you do vertex snapping, and then you're moving these around, and if you want to align them on a particular axis, you can say like, I can say like GX to say I only want to move in the x-axis, and then you can control hover over another vertex, and it will give you the closest point on the x-axis to this one, right? So now they're lined up vertically, right? So I can do that with this one here too. I can do that on the y-axis with this one. And this is, I can like grid them all up basically this way. GX, control, GY, control, GX, GX, I did something weird. GX, control, GY, control. And then I could also like extrude another vertex here, only move it on the x-axis. I wonder if there's an easy way. I think I can use Control R to like cut this. I can select these, I can merge them together. Let's say GX, GY. So there we go. We made some like streets here, and like maybe I'll make some like branch streets coming off. EY, extrude along the y-axis. EX, extrude along X. EX, extrude along X. Not F. EY, extrude along Y. EX, 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 EY. So now we've got this kind of like grid that we're making. It's maybe a little easier to see if I like bring it all up orange. But yeah, so you can see like maybe this is like our street plan, right? And you see this is like pretty easy to like author this way to just like make it really quickly, like build out some streets. So now what I want to do is basically make a program which creates a street mesh which matches this road plan, right? So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to save this. We're going to go D star blender. I'm going to call this streets. Cool. So now I'm gonna go from this like layout, this like 3D layout view, to this geometry nodes view. So you can see this has, by default, 3 different panels. It has the same 3D view that we had before. It has this area here, which is more like just like a data view. Like you imagine this is like a database, and all of these dinguses are like, oh, here's all the vertices like in your object, and here's all the edges and faces and corners and spline controls and points and volumes and like instances. So essentially what we're going to do in this like in this view down here is we're going to make a little program, and it's going to take all these like lines as input, and it's going to produce, it's basically going to like just keep updating this spreadsheet until we have like a bunch of meshes, right? So the way you do this is you kind of like pick your object and you say geometry node. We're going to make a new geometry node. We're going to call this like road maker, I guess, right? So now you can see right now this is a very simple program. It takes the input geometry, like all these lines, and it produces the output geometry. So you're seeing all those lines. If I like unplug this, you would see now this program is essentially just, it's nothing. It's like getting rid of our geometry. So like everything about how this programming works is that it's always left to right, and it's always like you're going to take your geometry, you're going to pass it through some transformer, and then you're going to get transformed geometry, right? So you can see, I think there actually is one called like transform, where you can like translate, rotate, and scale things, right? So if we like translated up 1 meter and then plugged it in over here, you see everything bounces up by 1, right? So, you know, here I can do, I think it's Control-Shift-Click lets me change what's plugged into the output. So you see, I'm not dragging this up. It's just this like transformer is able to take what I gave it and then bump it up, right? And we can even like look in this spreadsheet view and see everything is at z equals 0. It's all on the ground. Now everything's at z equals 1. It's like 1 meter up in the air. And like we could also like, you know, another example here is called join. This takes like multiple geometries and it combines them together, right? So I can combine the original geometry and the offset geometry, and we can look at this, and now you see it's like I've duplicated it, right? Like I've got the original one on the ground, I've got the one hovering in the air, I combine them together, and then that is what is actually spit out into our scene. It at first glance, if you're like, I know we've done a bunch of like Unreal like development on this channel, it kind of looks like Blueprint, and that's kind of like what I thought it would be like when I went into it, but then I found out pretty quickly it's actually like a bit different. And like maybe we'll get to that. This thing that I'm going to do with the roads, I kind of like 50% solved it by experimenting so that I at least wouldn't get immediately stuck on this stream today. Yeah, it did throw me for a loop for a while. So I'll kind of like explain that as I build the parts of this that I already understand first. And then we'll get to a part where I have no idea what I'm doing. And then hopefully if anybody in the chat knows how to do it, that would be great. But so one of the things we can do in our little, here, I'll make this a little bigger. One of the things we can do in our little geometry program here, if we say shift add, we can actually like make a cube. So you see this mesh, it's a cube, boom. I generated a cube, I spit it out. That's what we see in the scene. One of the things you can do, so, and you can see here its size is 1 meter by 1 meter by 1 meter. And then in terms of subdivisions, it just has 2 vertices like left and right per side, right? Like we could make this like 5, 5, 5. And then if I like went into wireframe view here, you would see now there's like 5 vertices per side. Okay, we're back to 2 vertices per side. You could even tell it to do 1,000 vertices per side, and whoa, Blender doesn't like that. That got real slow, real fast. So anyway, whoop. 1 basically just makes it a single vertex. That's interesting. 2 vertices per side. I guess I'll leave this in wireframe view for a little bit. Everybody following along? It's all making sense so far? So basically the first thing that I want to do is from this street plan, I just want to like as just an initial test, let's just place a cube at each of the junctions, right? That's like basically at each vertex, right? We're just gonna like place a cube. That'll be just like our initial test of like, in practice, we're gonna have a bunch of pieces of like, here's a right turn and a left turn and a T-bone turn and a four-way turn, right? But for now, we're just gonna place a cube at each junction, right? So the Blender command for that is called instance on points. And then you pass the cube in as the instance, right? And then we preview this. I come up here, I like maybe go back to solid view, and you can see, actually I'm gonna, where is it? There's actually like an option, I thought. Yeah, I have this setting here. I just found this out called cavity, which is nice. This basically makes it easier to see the like edges and stuff. So control space, by the way, is the thing that makes that go. Also, it looks like I have like an animation player down here. I don't need that. We're just gonna expand that area. Okay. So now you can see basically what happened here is, and here I'll make these not cross each other or whatever, but so we had a roadmap, we had a cube, we put them together, and oh, what happened? What did I do? Wait. Why can I still see this? I'm so confused about what's going on right now. Instance on points. Instance. Okay. I can see it again. Who knows what happened? There was like a little icon here that I didn't understand. If anybody can explain to me these weird things I see from time to time, I'm still learning Blender. It'd be a real help. Anyone in the chat. But yeah, so you can see we can like look up here, right? Like in our group input, what we had was 18 vertices and 20 edges, right? So 18 junctions and 20 like road segments. When we had a cube, we just had vertices, faces, and edges for like all the vertices, faces, edges of this cube. And then once we instanced them, is it because I'm in edit mode here? Go back to, okay, whatever. And then once we instance them on the point, you see what we have are instances, right? And what instance does is it takes another piece of geometry and just puts it in a different place, right? So we haven't actually created a ton of vertices for all these different cubes. There's like one sort of like platonic ideal cube sitting off stage, and then all of these are just aliases of it. They're all just instances of it, right? So each instance you see just has, you know, position, rotation, and scale. I don't know if that's all like super readable over the stream because it's like gray on gray. I wonder, it's probably, we can probably go to like preferences and there's probably like a theme or like a way to get out of this like dark mode, right? Oh, presets, here we go. Blender light, is that a bit more readable? Deep gray, Maya, minimal dark, print friendly. Oh, look at print friendly. This is very readable, right? This is actually hurting my eyes though. Maybe we'll do Blender light. Nah, this one's kind of weird too. XSI, what's that? Oh, that's pretty, but kind of hard to see. White is like way too white. Modo is Modo better? This is maybe a little better. Let's go with this. So, it's nice and soothing in blue. Okay, so yeah, so you can see, right, like we started with vertex and edges, and then after we went through this, we wound up with a bunch of instances of this cube, and we have one at each like junction point. We can even come in here on the Z, and maybe we want them to be more flat, right? So we have a flat cube, we instance it. Now we've got a cube on each junction point. Awesome. Gloony says very good and has a robot face. Excellent. Okay, so the next thing that we want to do is we basically I want to like put in these road segments. So for the road segments, what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to put, I guess, because these are all 90 degrees for now, like I kind of cheated and did that. I can basically just put cubes like on each of these edges and then like position it on the center. Looney says your Blender theme is not for me, to be fair. I like the default one better. Let's go back to the default one then. I'm just trying to make it like readable for people. Is this the default one? Is this more readable? I was just afraid that the gray on gray here was too hard. But cool. So like yeah, we basically like let's start by like we'll put a cube on each of these segments. Gloony says the other one looked modern. No, it's just colors. I always think that this kind of like everything in dark mode looks modern to me. But so basically we'll put a cube in the middle of each edge, and then we'll stretch the cubes based on how long the edge is, and then we'll rotate the cubes so that like they're either like pointing vertically or horizontally. So so this was the first thing that like took me a while to understand, because like coming from Blueprint, I was like, okay, I obviously need to find something that gives me all the edges, and then I will plug that into instance on point, and then that will have one for all the edges. But then when I was like looking through on like edges, I saw like, oh, mesh read edge neighbors, and wait, nope, that wasn't what I was thinking of. It was like mesh read edge vertices, right? And the description of this, right, edge vertices, and the little tooltip here was like retrieve topology information relating to the edges of a mesh. Sounds like what we want. Great. Okay, here's the index of two vertices, here's the position of two vertices, but there's no input. Like, which mesh is this coming from? I want to like plug this into here, but like I can't do that. Because that's what this would look like. Gloony says like, why are you making this proc exactly? Generating a city? Yes, I want to like basically just make some simple curves to describe roads and places where I want buildings, and then I want to generate the roads and I want to generate the buildings. And I also, I mean, this is like a step 2 thing, but I want to have like a low poly and a high poly version. So the low poly can be used for collision and the high poly can be used for rendering. But anyway, I was like, okay, edge vertices. Like, this is obviously not... I see, you can do it with modular pre-made building modules. Yeah, I guess so, but... anyway, so... coming from, like, other places... When he says, I would do it in Unreal, though. Tells us one minute his journey of start learning Blender. Well, partly, like, I was learning Blender because I've used Maya for 20 years, and I'm getting sick of Maya, and I hate having to pay for it every year, and Blender's free. And the other thing is that, like, Maya, this geometry nodes feature is, like, a kind of, like, simple version of another program called Houdini, which I was used to. And, like, I kind of wanted to see if I could do in Blender the sorts of things I did in Houdini, where you could like generate. Is there a possibility that you are German? My dad is from Munich, but I am from Ohio. I'm extremely not German. Sprechen nur ein bisschen Deutsch. So. Yeah, you said earlier, like, I would do it in Unreal though. Yeah, like in Unreal you have construction scripts, so it's pretty limited. All you can do is like stamp, 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 stamp. Whereas like in geometry nodes, we have things like Booleans where I can like union or intersect geometry, and I can like dig out like a cave from a solid object, and I can convert stuff into volume data and then do volume operations and then convert them back into meshes. Like there's just like a lot like richer tool set in Blender than in Unreal's construction scripts. Unreal has live booleans too and procedural tools with 5.4. Well, I'm using 4. Also, the Unreal's boolean tools have always sucked. I mean, like they had boolean brushes way back when, and it generates insane amounts of geometry. The collision's bad. I've been using it, but it's also like I just like I don't know. I don't like being like tied necessarily so specifically to like one game engine. So I'm like. Unreal can like render the game, but like I like having all my assets and stuff like be portable in case I want to use them in other places. But yeah, and like hopefully we'll see later. Like there's just like so many cool modifiers that you can use in Blender which are like not available in Unreal. Plus like a lot of this stuff like these like geometry things here, like a lot of them run as like a mixed CPU GPU thing, so they're like actually surprisingly fast. Anyway. So, what I eventually found out, to go back to like, how the heck do I use this edge vertices node? What I eventually found out was that this programming environment here is not like Blueprint. Blueprint is like only programmers will understand this, but it's like an imperative programming language. It's like a list of commands. When he says I need to leave, but actually I had a thing planned. Oh well. I'll put this stuff on video on demand, so it'll be up all week, and then it will be in the YouTube archive forever. Like yeah, so like Unreal blueprints are kind of like a imperative programming language. It's just like a list of commands, right? And each command changes the state of the world, and you just incrementally like boop 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 poke the world until the world looks like how you want it. Whereas geometry nodes here are actually more of like a functional programming language. So all other than the geometry, right, these green pins actually represent data flowing through the graph. But all the other pins like selection and pick instance and all the rest of these aren't data. I'm not necessarily like plugging data into these things, although they have like default data if you don't plug anything into them. What they really are like functions. And so like what these functions are doing is that given the current geometry on the node that you're doing, like this instance on points things, all these things here are like slots where you could slot a function into here, like this is Mad Libs, and then it runs the whole thing with all those functions and produces geometry on the other side, right? So like if I like plugged edge vertices into this instance on points, it would be the edges of this geometry. It would be the edges of the geometry points that's like plugged into it. And like all geometry, like whenever you see geometry, it just means this. It means like a database of vertices and edges and faces and corners and points and splines and instances. And like, you know, by default, like if we are just sort of outputting this, you can see like a vertex, these have a position by default, but you can actually add as many attributes as you want to all of these, right? So like we're gonna do that right now. So like what there is, I can like pin off of here, and there's a thing called like set attribute. I think it's called set attribute. Store named attribute, right? So you can see on edges, that's the domain. I want to store a new vector, like I want to store a new position. And so that position is, I'm gonna like average these two, right? So I'm gonna like add, so given some edge, if I add the positions of either side of the edge together and then I multiply that, I don't want to multiply, I want to scale. And then I scale that by 0.5. And actually, I don't need to do two nodes here. I learned later there's a node called mix, which is like lerp. So I can like mix A and B at 0.5, right? What does this uniform do? I don't know what that means. But so this is basically, I'm just getting like the midpoint, right? And then I can store that in here and I can call it midpoint, right? And so you see this geometry comes in, and when this geometry comes out, what's happening is I still have all my original geometry, but I look at all the edges, bada bing, I now have a midpoint, X, Y, and Z, stored on every edge, right? So now what I can do is I can instance on points from this. I'm going to instance this cube that we made. And so you can see this is doing what we already did before. But instead, what I can do is there's a guy here. Like this expects like points to come in. And like when you bring this in, it gets points from all the vertices and all the points, right? And so I basically want to, like starting with this geometry right here, I want to take all these edges, I want to take all these midpoints here, and I want to put all these edges into this points domain. So you can, there's actually a box here called mesh to points, where you can say I want to create a point for each edge, right? And then the position, I think I can just plug this midpoint in, right? And then I can plug the points in here, and we can look at this, and bada bing, bada bing, bada bing. You can see, like if we preview this, we've like created all these points. We create a point at each of the midpoint, and it did pass along. I don't know if I actually need this store named attribute thing. Yeah. So basically, so what happened here is we said like, hey, I've got a mesh, but I want to convert it to a bunch of points, right? And I want to create a point for each edge, right? This selection, this is not like a selection like you can select vertices in the UI. This is like select like in a SQL statement. Like this is like filter. This is like which edges do you want? If you leave this unpinned, that just means I'm going to use every edge. And then the position, like I said, this is not data. This is not like send me a list of positions. This is like give me a function which takes an edge and produces a position, right? So here's a function that takes an edge and produces two positions and two indices, and then I plug that into mix, which converts those two positions into one position, right, the midpoint. So I've made a function here. I plug that function into this position function, and then that's how it figured out where to place each point. And then those points got plugged into instance on points. And this one, if I like connect that in, you can see that created a box at the midpoint, right? So we have like a box essentially for every single like road segment, right? So I actually like, I think here, I'm gonna zoom in here. I'm gonna like get all my geometry here. I'm just gonna like scale it up a bit. I think like it would, like the length of the roads was like a little too close to like 1 meter, like the length of these junctions. So let's just like make our road here a little bit bigger, because we'll just leave like 1 meter as just being the thickness of a road, right? So now, like I said before, there was that like join geometry node, which you can see like if I just leave that as just this one, it looks the same. But if I join that with this dingus, now we have a box at every junction, and we have a box in the middle of every segment, right? So this is cool, right? I didn't have to like actually place all these boxes and copy paste them around and like make sure to put them on exactly the right place. Like I just have this like mesh here that like I can like grab, and even I can like interactively edit, right? And you see they like stay at those midpoint positions, right? And you can also see, like, I was picking the midpoint, like 0.5, but you can imagine, like, I can go from 0 to 1, 0 to 1. And now I'm, like, picking, like, a point sort of close to the start. I'm picking a point close to the end, right? So this is all pretty cool. Like, you can, like, preview your intermediate results. You can, like, play with variables while you're going. And so you can just, like, see how things are looking. So what we want to do next is we want to stretch all these dinguses out, right, so that they match the length of the edge. So what I actually want to do is for each edge, I want to get the distance between the points. So we'll call this distance from position 1 to position 2, right? So here we're making a function, right? Given some edge, the distance between the two functions, that's some scalar value, and then we're going to store this on each edge, right? We're just going to compute the difference and sort of store. So store a named attribute, we're going to call this length. We're going to do it for each edge, right? And then basically we're going to come in here, boop, and we're going to come in here, boop. There we go. So now if we like just preview this, like what it looked like after we did this, you can see we have all these edges, and each edge now has a length attribute. Like this edge is 17 meters long, this edge is 8.9 meters long. That's all super useful information because we can use that to then scale all these instances. So let's go back here. Let's make some room for ourselves. And let's just say we're gonna, I think there's like scale instances. Excellent. So now for all the instances, we can leave this blank. We're going to, I think combine X, Y, Z, 1, 1, 1, and we can plug, okay, what was it? There was a control right mouse button drag to cut edges. Okay, that's so weird. But we can like plug this in there. Now you can see we can like scale them. We're gonna scale them, I guess we'll scale them along the X axis, right? So as you scale it by 2, if you scale it by 5, right? What we want to scale it by though is what did I do? Why can't I undo? Ah! Redo, redo, redo. Okay, that's, once again, Blender just does confusing things sometimes. There's like, it's because there's so many hotkeys. I like accidentally touched the wrong button and then I'm in like nightmare land. Okay, so scale. This is just, I'm just complaining because it's new to me. This is like when you start a new game and you don't know all the controls yet. So we're gonna come in here, we're gonna scale. We're gonna scale them locally. And we're gonna plug those in here. And then what we're gonna do is we're going to, so there's this like store named attribute. Well, guess what? Is named attribute. We can read a named attribute, right? So we know it's a float. We know we called it length, right? So let's grab that attribute and let's put it into X. And now you can see, bam, right? A lot of the, so like all the ones that are vertical are obviously rotated wrong. So like, let's ignore those for now. But these ones that are like, you know, like X-ray. Okay, it looks like they're all basically the right length, right? Yeah, zoop, 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 zoop. Although you can see they are, I'm in this kind of like X-ray debug view. You can see it's like half overlapping the junction. So I think what I need to do is subtract 1, right? So subtract 1, and that will make it, I need to take a half off. The reason I'm doing 1 is because I need to take a half off of like both sides, right? So it's like 1/2 plus 1/2, that's 1. So I plug that in, and now you see they're all flush up against each other. So that's cool, but like obviously the directions are all wrong. So let's also go in here and let's save the direction of each edge as well. By the way, when I converted mesh to points here, and I can preview this, all of these points, you see, they still have that length, right, on here, right? So like all the attributes that were on this edge, they were transferred to these points, like logically. So what we can also put on here is we can have one, which is just going to be store named attribute. This one, we're going to store them on edges. We're going to store a vector on each edge, plug it through, and we're going to call this like offset, I guess. And so we're just going to subtract P1 from P2. That'll get us the offset from P1 to P2. And then we can store that on there. So now, if we look at all our instances, they not only have a length, but they also have like an XYZ offset. Is offset 0 on all of these? No, some of them. Oh yes, okay. Because we've joined it with other geometry. Let's only look at our segments. So you can see now you can see sometimes they're offset in the X, sometimes they're offset in the Y. Doop-a-doop-a-doop. So I actually wonder if it might be better instead of like, I wonder if it's better to just, instead of storing the length and the offset, just to store both positions and then compute the length and the offset. Okay, let's say store named attribute. We'll call you P0. Store named attribute. We'll call you P1. And then we're just going to plug. We're not going to bother subtracting. We're not going to bother doing distances. We're just going to plug P1 and P2 in. Actually, I think that distance was useful. We might use that a lot. I don't know. Well, let's just see. So we got this named after here length, but we don't have length anymore. Now we need to say like get named attribute, get named attribute. This is P0. This one's P1. I want to get the distance between these two. We want to subtract 1 from that. And then we want to plug that into scale. Why is that not doing what I want? Oh, it thinks that these are floats. We want vectors. Then we want to plug P1 into here. Plug P2 into here. There we go. Wait, something is still amiss. What is it? Oh, these names are weird. How did that happen? P0, P1. Oh, we want to store these on each edge. How did this get so messed up? Whatever. Great. So, right, something's still weird. We position them on the midpoint. Oh, these aren't floats. These are vectors. There we go. Yeah, okay, cool. So now you can see we've got a road segment in between each junction. The only problem here is that they're not pointing the right direction. But now we have stored in each instance P0 and P1, right, both of those positions. And so we can compute the rotation from the offset between them. So I know there's probably through like grouping or something a way to like hide some of this stuff, but damned if I know where that is. So wait, am I able to come in here and just, I say Control G, I made a group. Cool. And then can I How do I bounce out? How do I get out of this group? What have I done? Okay, I made a group. That was fun. I'm very excited about that. It's very simple now, but I don't know how to get back to where I was. Road maker. I can't click here where you would expect to click. Okay, it's tab. I guess that it was tab because that's what you use in this view to switch into edit mode. So I guess you have a node group and then you can tab into it. Can I rename this? Yes, I can call this save endpoints to edges. And convert to midpoints. Is that an insanely long name? Great. Cool. So now you can see we're starting with our authored geometry and a flat like pancake cube, and we're creating an edge. We're creating a cube at each, in the middle of each edge. We're creating a cube at each vertex, and then we're spitting that all out. But it's looking wrong because we need to rotate these guys. So here was the scale instances here. We need another one, which is going to be rotate instances. Cool. Okay, I did this thing again. How do I get rid of that? Control right mouse button. There we go. All right, control right mouse button. That's the cutty tool. So now to rotate all of these instances, I need to get these same two named attributes. I need to convert them into a direction vector, so that's just subtracting them. And then I think there is like a line Euler to vector. Yes. So this like is gonna take, nope, not a rotation. This is gonna take a vector. It's going to take a rotation, which I guess is just the nothing rotation. Excuse me, which is what they have right now. I suppose I could put instance rotation in here. And then I want to point your x-axis at this vector. This vector, which is just from, what is this? From P0 to P1. And I can plug that into the rotation here, and bada bing, bada boom. Okay, now we're on to something. So we have created a cube at each junction. We've created a stretched out cube in between all of them. Now there's still some stuff I don't love about this. Like in particular, there's all these internal faces. Also, there's like a bottom, and we don't really need a bottom on the road because that's going to be clipping into the ground. So I think that's stuff to start thinking about. But in the meantime, let's save this. I'm going to export it. So we can say FBX. I'm going to call it streets.fbx. And now let's go into Unreal and see how this is looking like in Unreal. So launching Unreal, it's happening. How are people feeling? Is this interesting? Is this boring? Definitely sound off. Okay, I'll bring this down here. So here's just our like minimal level in Unreal. I can hit play. There is the laser beam we built last week. Here's my shooter, it's missiles. Also got like a melee attack. But so let's just import that road and place it in here. So we can say import streets. I'll leave the import scale as well. Okay, so like Unreal has 100 centimeters per meter, so I think I need the import scale to be 100, but I'm afraid that's actually going to make it huge. So let's just find out what happens. That's probably going to be extremely bad, but whatever. Import. Failed to create asset. Why did we fail to create asset? See log for details. Log. Import failed. What is that? Failed to import. See output log for details. I'm in the output log. Where was it? Why did that fail? Let's go back to Blender and see. If we tab out, save, export, FBX, streets.fbx, export it. Let's try this again. Import, streets.fbx. Okay, what if was this scale too big? No, it still doesn't like it. Well, this is, okay, wait. Can I open that FBX in Maya? Like, what's happening? Delta says, not boring, reminds me of trying to learn Reaper. What's Reaper? Is that like a procedural audio tool, or? Doop, 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 doop. Sorry, we're waiting for me to open Maya. It's another digital audio workstation. Duh. Okay, so here, we're just gonna test and see what happened with this FBX file. So if I drag and drop it into Maya, what happens? It only sees a single vertex. Uh-oh, that's no good. Okay, I guess. Why is it only seeing a single vertex? Spoiler alert, we've got a whole thing here. I don't think I need to bake. When I was testing earlier, I didn't need to bake. Export FBX. Limit to, I can like limit to, if I go here, if I select this, and I say, oh, you know what? I think I know what it is. There is a thing where when you're doing this, so right now you see what it says, there's 38 instances, right? But like what we can do is there's a thing here that says realize instances. What this means is it's going to take all of those instances and it's actually going to combine them into one big mesh. Boom. So I do that and you see now I have a mesh with 300 vertices. I think I actually need to do this and then export FBX, streets, export FBX. Now if I come in here, import streets, let's make this 100 again, import. This time it did it. Great. So here we go. We've got the whole thing. Wow, this is huge. I don't think I needed that 100. I think it was handling the, here, let's see, scale. Let's just import it one-to-one. So asset, we import streets. There we go. Is this too small now? Let's find out. If I drag this out. Okay, it's about a meter. Street's about a meter wide. That's what we expected. One thing some stuff I want to do here. I want to change this to the, have like a dark checkerboard material. Also on the collision settings, this is a fun little trick. There's collision complexity. So right now this has no collision, it's just render geometry. But we can come in here and we can say use complex collision as simple, or specify customized complex collision mesh. This is basically saying use all the render triangles as collision. That's like insane if you actually have a highly detailed mesh with a ton of tiny triangles. And in that case, probably we'll have, like I said, like a low poly mesh to use as collision, and then this will be like a high poly mesh. But for now, we're just gonna say, yeah, just collide directly with a render geo. So now you can see we can come in here and we've got a road. 1 meter is basically just as big as the player. That's not very big. Let's change the import scale. So the road, 1 meter is the width of the road. So if we import at 5, that means that the road will be 5 meters. It will be like 5 times as big as the player. Doop-a-doop. There we go. We got roads. It's in the engine. So now I could do a build. We could shoot it out. All this stuff works. So there we go. It is, what was that? It was a quarter tall, but then I modified it by 5, so it's like probably about a little over a half meter on the side there. So I want to show you some of the other cool stuff that we can do now that we have all this data. Because like, I can close my, because like, remember, like all this stuff, all that geometry is auto-generated. Like all we did was draw this little like street layout. And we came in here and like bada bing, it like created all this stuff. But like one of the things you can do is add additional modifiers to the object. So like one of them is called like the bevel modifier. And you can see what bevel does is it's going to go through this and it's going to bevel everything. And like we can actually make that bevel like 0.2. I think that's actually a bit too big, but see how high we can make it. But like, so you know, I could re-export this now. We can come back in here. I can like right click and say re-import. And now we have bevels on the sides of all those roads, right? So now I'm not crashing into the side. Well, I'm still crashing into the side. And now I'm kind of glitching a little because it doesn't seem to handle that slope as well. But so now there's like bevels on the sides of all of those. And like we could actually come in here and add more segments that will like round it off. So re-export it again. FBX, by the way, is just, I baked out a bunch of 3D stuff that game engines know how to read. You see, now we have a kind of like rounded side on all of these. Doop, doop. And this is like, I like barely did anything, right? Like I was just tweaking numbers and I was able to get like a pretty big difference in like how this stuff looks. I also kind of want these to be a little flatter, so we'll go back to our geometry node. And when we make our like unit cube, we can say like 0.1. That'll make them all a bit flatter. Now what I don't like is that there's all of these like seams inside of here, right? Because like this cube and this cube and this cube and this cube, they're all like different cubes. So one of the things that you can do, and like Gluini was saying earlier, like, oh, why would you do this in Blender? I would just do this in Unreal. Well, check this out. One of the things you can do when you're modeling is to just like merge vertices that are close together, and we can do that in geometry node, right? We can say merge by distance, just all the vertices that are, I guess this says they're within, we'll just say 0.01, like within a millimeter of each other. Bing! And we see it kind of worked. What's going on here? I see mostly it's sort of flattened over them, but there's like a few cases here where it looks like there's still some internal faces. Why did it get rid of some of the faces and not other? Okay, so it merged these vertices together, but it kept all those internal faces. That is seriously annoying. But, you know, we can come in here, we can do another export and see. There's probably a faster way to export, like I could make a button or something. But now we can come in here, re-import. So now we don't have those generally don't have those internal edges. It kind of sucks because we still have some internal faces, and like I think those might cause trouble for like collision. But also we can see if we go down here, there's like bottom faces on all this. That's like all unnecessary. Like we don't need anything on the bottom at all. But yeah, so like these are looking more like roady roads. So, oh, it's large enough that it's actually here. Let's yeah, it's large enough that it's actually clipping my the terrain isn't totally flat. Here, let's just move this and let's bring it down. So yeah. Now we got a nice bevel on there. It's relatively flat, but it's not like just a texture. So we can sort of bounce on it a little bit. And you can see we have like T-junctions and all these other things, and we don't have any of those internal bevels. But I don't like I said, I don't like that you can see that there's faces on the bottom, and I don't like that there's internal faces. So the next thing we need to do is, so we know we can just get rid of the bottom from the cube that we're instancing here, right? We can make this cube, yeah. Like one thing we can do is instead of generating a cube here, I could actually like model like a road segment that just doesn't have a bottom. But just for funsies, let's see about changing this such that we can remove the bottom of it. So we can come out here, and I think it's like delete geometry. It's like we want to get rid of something. What we want to get rid of is a face, and we need some selection. And so it's the, can I get like the normal geometry, read normal? Okay. If the normal, we take the dot product of that with the up vector is less than, let's say, negative 0.5. So this is basically saying if the face is pointing down, that's our selection, right? So this selection, whenever you plug into these, you're saying like, hey, I'm gonna filter. I'm not gonna do all faces. I'm only gonna do faces that meet this criteria. And the criteria is that the normal is pointing down. So now I can zoop this in here, and I can zoop this in here, and bada bing, bada boom, no faces on the bottom anymore. But you can still see we still have those annoying internal faces at the junctions to get rid of. Make that a little bigger. And like actually, I'm gonna look in here. I think I can like hide back faces. Okay, yeah. So you can see it looks like at these junctions, okay, what's going on? I've lost the ability to see my little vertices. Where'd they go? Ah! But so if I preview this, where did my edges go? I want to see my original guys. Whoa, no, and I did a thing here. Okay. Okay, so I can see my thing, but I can't see. Why can't I see my original geometry? If I hide this, it's hidden. It's hidden. Why is it hidden? I hit a button. I hit a button and now I can't see things. View. Blender. Hide show vertices. Show hidden objects without H. Doesn't seem like I have any hidden objects. Hide selected H. Hide unselected Shift H. Nope, that's not what I want. I want to see vertices. My vertices are hidden. It says everything should be visible, right? Oh, I got him back. What is this? What is this thing? Okay, I don't know what it means, but cool. So, yeah, if I like pick one of these vertices, I can like zoom in and then go. So it looks like this long guy's face is included, but this short guy's face was removed. So one of the internal faces was removed. I guess I saw that there were two faces facing each other and just randomly got rid of one of them when it merged the vertex, but didn't get rid of the other one. There must be some heuristic for when it sees coincident faces, it deduplicates them. So I've only got one hidden face inside of there, but it's obnoxious. So let's go back here. If I just type face, what do we have? Like face, just to read points on face. I think what I need to do is like, we're going to, and here I'm going to hide this bevel for now. So now we're back to being like sharp edge. You can see this sharp face inside of there. Okay, I'm gonna do the dumbest thing in the world. We're gonna say that we want to delete geometry. We want delete faces, and the faces we want is such that the normal. I get the normal. Can I raycast? Hell yeah. Okay. I can get the position. Hell yeah. Okay. So if I take the position, I assume the position of the face is just going to be its center. Maybe. And then I add the normal multiplied by like a little bit. So if I go like a millimeter out from the face, so I'm starting at the middle of the face and I'm going out 1 millimeter from its front side. And that's my source position. And then I trace up and I hit something. The target geometry is myself, right? If I hit something, that means that like I hit the road, right? Like this side, it's not going to hit anything. This one, it's not going to hit anything. But this one, I'm going to go out and I'm going to go up and I'm going to hit the road surface. So if I plug that in, hey, look at that. Look at that, folks. This sort of thing of like, I cast a ray. I wonder if it's possible to get multiple hits. Because like, what you actually want to do to determine if a piece of geometry is inside another piece of geometry is get the total number of hits and see if it's odd. That's side of the like mathematical way it works to do an inside-outside test. That would cover the fact if there was like another road on top of it, right? But now we can save this. We can export. Oh wait, before we export, let's turn this bevel back on. Export FBX streets. We come back into the engine. We re-import it. Now we see there's no geometry on the bottom. There's no internal faces. All these bevels that it made are nice and clean. So, boom, there we go. Nice generated streets. So now I can like come in here and like I was saying before, I can just like, if I wanna like add streets to my city map, I can just say like, what would this be like? EY zoop, and it just automatically adds it. I can say like EX zoop. If I wanted to like cut this here, I could cut this. I can merge these, M at center. Now you can see the way that I've set this up is not really handling these kind of like cattywampus ones very well. So for now we're just gonna make sure everything is 90 degrees. GY, boop. Now they're all like sort of nice and clean. So that's another thing we should do. We should be able to support like tilted streets that like you see it's like this one's overlapping too much and that one's not overlapping. The junction's still just a square. So that's something to think about. But like other stuff that we can do, there's like, I added this bevel modifier, but there's all kinds of modifiers that you can add. There's like, we can smooth it. No, smooth is not the one I wanted. I think it's called subdivision surface. Yeah. So what this does, just look at everything. If we sort of increase the resolution, this makes it look a little more like, it kind of like rounds out those like inner turns. I think depending on how many, yeah, I actually don't, it doesn't even look like the bevel affects that very much. But like you can see, we can, it's probably too much geometry, but we can come in here and we could like create this sort of, you know, I'm not saying I want it to look this way, but it's just like, oh look, there's all these different effects that you can do. And it's as simple as me just like exporting it. I'm sure there's a way to make like an export import script, which would just like auto update the engine in one click instead of me having to click like 4 times like this. But now you can see like we have these sort of more interesting shapes. I don't know if I would use this like smoothing thing for roads specifically. Zoop. That's weird. Let's get right on there. But like, you know, there's like, I could imagine like if we were generating like more organic shapes in like an alien planet or whatever, it could be like cool to be able to sort of do this more sort of like gelatinous, smooth kind of look. Or if this is like an alien city with alien streets that are like more like this. I'm kind of limited. I don't have like a bajillion modifiers here. I'm gonna have to like go through and play with everything that's available. What other modifiers do we have? There is, what do you do? Add modifier, geometry nodes, generate, array. Oh, we can boolean them, we can decimate it. Yeah, like, we can remesh it, we can like thicken it. What does screw do? Whoa! That's wild. Wait, let's take this down. What if I do 10 degrees? That's that looks like garbage, but it's a thing we could do. I'm sure that'll be useful elsewhere. But there's like all these different sorts of stuff that we can do. You can like decimate. This is if you just want to like blast down the number of vertices. There's, what else have we got? Mirror, mask, skin. Skin doesn't seem to be doing anything. Oh, skin just takes curves. That's right. Yeah, what deformers do we have here? Simple deform, smooth, lattice. That's interesting. Wait. So deformers, mesh deform? It looks like all of those are taking like another object, which is the thing that's like deforming it. Deforming along a curve. Let's see, warp. Here, let's add a, am I in edit mode? Let's go back to object mode. Let's add like a circle. And then if I go in here, there was that deformer that was like a curve deform. We could choose that circle. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Okay, so like we can generate it flat and then we can like deform it into this sort of thing. Wait, if we make it like negative y, that's weird. But y does it that way. If we do negative x, and if before we did that, if we subdivided it, so if I did a generate, then subdivision surface, and then we moved this subdivision surface above, and then we just bounced it up and gave it some more resolution. Yeah, look at that. We can take the road that we generated, and now we can like warp it onto like a, here, let's take this Bezier. And if I say RX90, tab back out, and then we go back to our dingus here. Well, let's go with streets. And then what was it? X. Yeah, we could go like, yeah. This is so dope. Okay. So then we could take this and we could say like SZ, bring it down a little bit. And then let me just select streets here and say export FBX selected objects. And we came back in here and we re-imported it. Now we've got like curving streets. That's so cool. This could be like, we could like make like a road map, and then we can make like a spaceship, and we can like curve them over the hull of the spaceship. This is so cool. This is going to be powerful. This is going to be like too powerful. I bet I could also like use this for doing like wrapping stuff around like spherical planets. Like our geometry stuff only needs to think about stuff in a flat plane, but then we can use like additional deformers and stuff to like transform it and make it like this. How much geometry is that though? I did a lot of subdivision. If I say brush wireframe, ooh, that's a lot of faces. Okay, maybe not the best. I wonder if, but you know what? That's fine. We can actually, instead of subdividing it, we could add geometry in the road maker program here. Like instead of there just being vertices on the ends, it can put them everywhere. Okay. There's so much cool stuff that we can do. But I think I used up all my brain power just figuring this stuff out. So I'm going to go take a lunch break. But yeah, thanks for following along and watching me slowly figure out, like if I go in here, oh yeah, so we have it like original and then we have it deformed. cool. So I'm gonna go get some lunch. I'm gonna figure out what I'm doing for the rest of today, but thank you for watching. Thank you for following along. As always, we definitely do this every Friday. I'm hoping, fingers crossed, to start streaming twice a week, because I think these are actually like pretty helpful. Like me just like talking through stuff, and there's some like stuff I kind of want to start like also like demoing and getting people's opinions on, and it's easier to just do that on stream. Yeah, so we do this every Friday. Our game is Nightshift Galaxy. It's on Steam, wishlist it. I'm currently trying to figure out all these tricks so that I can figure out a fast way to build stuff without having a bunch of other people helping me, at least for now. We want to be in early access by the end of this summer, fingers crossed. And then, yeah, we'll be in early access as long as it takes to either finish the game or to get money to make an even bigger game. So that's the plan right now. But yeah, as always, you can check at Tiny Galactic. There's also, I think, just like links in this Twitch channel for like our link tree to join the Discord. There's like an AMA thread if you have any questions about it. And whatchamacallit? Oh, hey, Flip Luca. This is the best way to co-work. I agree. Unfortunately, I don't know if you joined in the last 5 seconds, but I'm just about to finish the stream. But yeah, just to review what we did today. Boop, boop, boop. We like dook. Started with just like, hey, maybe I can draw like a network. Find a network, just maybe I can draw a network of stuff, and then maybe I can make a little program that like turns it into a road mesh, and then maybe we can like add some detail to that, and then like, oh, we have these ability to do like deformers and things, and so like hopefully like I want to have like a nice suite of like little programs in Blender that can like generate and lay out roads, it can generate and lay out buildings, and then it'll be really easy to just like it says, oh, very cool, is it a city like environment building? Yeah, so like basically I just want to have like a smart tool for making it really easy to like edit my city, and also have like a few big buildings like warehouses and like space elevators and stuff they can actually go inside of. So like I really want to like, hopefully, fingers crossed, like utilize Blender's like Boolean tools for that. And then yeah, like basically I'm thinking the city will be the first environment for early access, and then the 2 other environments that I want to have is like a space station or like battleships in 0G. I want to have an alien planet. It's like a desert planet that has like caves and things. And I think that like, I'm pretty sure like right now I'm feeling like 75% good that like these tools in Blender will be good enough to basically stub in, because like in other games we did, like I said, that stuff with Maya and Houdini, I think I can do it all with Blender with free tools and not have to pay for a bunch of stuff. So that'll be cool, and hopefully I can like make these generators smart enough that it makes like attractive enough looking stuff that it's like almost like an artist made it. So yeah, we stream every Friday. Wishlist on Steam. Hopefully we'll be streaming more often as I start like actually getting levels that I want to play test and get people's feedback on. All these videos are like up for a week on Twitch after I broadcast them, so you can like shoot out links. And I know it's you, Chris. And there's also an archive on YouTube. So like everything is, if you want to watch any of the stuff we've done in the past, like we've got like 20 videos so far of like how we built like the moon base and how we built various weapons, and like now going into like how I'm gonna make this like Blender city generator that I can use in the game. So man, this has been this is like a 10-minute outro, right? Okay, I'm really going for realsies now. Unfortunately, the boy wasn't able to join us today. Next time I'm on stream, I'll try and coax our cat to join us as well. But yeah, peace. Thanks for watching. Bye.